Welcome to the broadcast, my fruit fancies and all kinds of Nancy's. Pull up a throne. How are you? It's a bit frenetic here. I couldn't even be bothered. I couldn't even be bothered to hide that pile of plugs, paraphernalia and wires behind me. I couldn't be asked, my dear. Not today, one of those days. Probably going to be a dreadful broadcast. A really bad broadcast. No, barely any preparation. No time to edit. So at least I'm giving you fair warning, aren't I, my dears? I am telling you exactly how it is. But I do think that I look rather louche. I feel louche, as they say, in this silk shirt. I think I might have worn it for you once before, but not in this context. It feels very slippery and silky, like a rather delightful negligee to be pulled out on occasion. As ever, we have to discuss Meghan. She's the topic of the day, as ever, was never. And I had many comments, by the way, in the wake of the previous broadcast, drawing attention to the fact that there was already an existing brand with the same name out of New York. I'm sure you've all heard about this, my dear. A family clothing company that was started years ago, originally in 2015, I think. Well, the trouble is, you see, that according to many reports, this guy, this owner, this Mark, or Mike was it, he didn't trademark the brand. He didn't trademark. Although he says that he believes that he has the common law right to sell articles under that name and has been doing so for 8 years. Well, I'm sorry, that's not good enough. I have every sympathy for this chap, but I feel that, this works on two levels, you see. On the first level, it's his naivety on display. Business is business, and securing a brand, as Meghan will tell you, as ever, Meghan will explain to you that securing a brand with a click of the fingers, as she does so diligently, is top of the list of priorities, my dear. Do you understand? It is right up there. You've got to secure that brand, especially when you're a few years in. You cannot be resting on your laurels. And this isn't a startup business we're talking about. It's an established business. It's down to you to protect the brand. On another level, of course I understand that why, I pose the quiz, why Meghan, as an advocate of compassion and of goodwill, who shows up and does good, that's what they do, isn't it? They show up and they do good. No matter if you try to fend them off with a red hot poker, they will still be there showing up ready for the paparazzi. Do you understand? They do all that, so why did they not think to reach out? Because all it took was a Google to find out if a business still was running under this name. You know, everyone could do it easily. I did it, you did it, the papers did it. Why couldn't their teams do it and reach out and settle all this before it comes out into the fore? Do you understand? There is, of course, don't put it past them to do it now. There's every chance that they will try and control the narrative and shape the narrative and swoop in and try and do good for the owner of this business. And they'll probably start doing one of their Billie Eilish tricks, won't they? They'll do a Billie Eilish or eyelash, and they'll start sending this chap who owns this business a Billie Eilish t-shirt and a signature, hoping that will do something. Well, perhaps some sort of financial recompense is coming their way. Who knows? Ultimately, I think it's their fault, though. I think it's the business's fault for not protecting themselves. But also, don't put it past Meghan to invite this chap to collaborate with them and try and seduce him into their world to make her look like she's actually being a philanthropist to the poor little business. No, it wouldn't have been difficult to Google to find out, and it wouldn't have been difficult to make an approach in the very first instance. Every time this sort of drama is created that they claim they want to avert and avoid, well, we don't swallow that, do we, my dears? Because when people urinate over us and insist that it is raining, they cop a squat and they urinate, not over me because I don't accept it. We don't offer them an umbrella, we don't offer them a parasol, we don't offer anything of that sort because we know that it's not raining. So don't pee on our legs and tell us it's raining. We know it's not. We know it's not. We know a golden shower when we see one. And they could have had peace instead of this territorial pissing all over Mark Kolsky as he cowers in the golden showers of Montecito. Poor chap. What a soggy business. Wow and hello, he said, In the last 36 hours, there has been an outpouring of support and concern regarding recent events around our namesake brand. We are aware. We are not affiliated. I'm just picking out some highlights here. He thanks his friends and family. He says it's 2025. We're grateful to still be here, making clothing in New York and New Jersey. We will continue as ever, Mark Kolsky. Well, no offence to Mark Kolsky, it works better for his brand, actually, his little vintage brand in New York. I think it works better, actually, for the identity of his business, but it was always a stupid name for Meghan's brand. Stupid name. But actually, thinking about it, she should have just called it the Tig and got on with the same old merching that she was doing years ago, shouldn't she? And just a little branding note, the way that she writes it in that scrawl of hers, in the curlicues, as ever, it looks horrible. And part of that because they should have ignored the strict grammatical formatting of it, the syntax or whatever it is of using a lowercase e for ever, and they both should have been in capitals for the sake of the brand. As ever. It's stronger, it looks better. All of this as ever sign off. It actually reminds me a little bit of the phrase as you were, you know, as ever, as you were, a bit like Liam Gallagher of Oasis. He signs off as you were, LG. It reminds me of that sort of thing, or an episode of Dad's Army, as you were, Captain Mannering, as you were, this kind of thing, as ever, Meghan. The logo has an eerie similarity to the coat of arms for an area of Mallorca. Apparently the mayor is absolutely furious about this. That's what I find rather amusing. In case you're confusing your brands between as ever and a random town in the middle of Mallorca. But this coat of arms and this logo or whatever has been in existence for hundreds of years, since 1370. And this mayor has said, this furious mayor, we don't want it perverted. Well, quite. Their whole game is a perversion, isn't it? A perversion of everything we hold sacred and the sterling values. Some say that as ever has been lifted from the sign-off of a YouTube reporter that I'm sure many of you watch. But, well, that sounds a bit far-fetched to me, but you can't put anything past them. And don't be surprised if her prize offering from the brand, when it's eventually released, is a fruit basket. And don't be surprised if her memoir is called Toodle Pip. I wouldn't be surprised at all, because she gets in there all, don't she, my dears, my duckies? She gets in there all, don't that girl? It's all very rum. Very, very rum. I noticed that even the Guardian newspaper, the left-wing Guardian, are not impressed. And actually, throughout their article, they made the identical points that I raised in my last broadcast, all the way through it, to be honest, in different words. I have many journalists and many hacks in the audience here, in the fruit basket, actually. They tune in, and they are agog at my revelations, my insights, my whispers, and what I come out with, and my take on things. And all I can say is that I'm flattered. I'm extremely flattered. I'm used to it now. I'm used to it. This one was reaching a little bit, I thought, but another company, As Ever Photography, the owner called Jen piped up from Arizona saying, when one of the most famous people in the world starts using your business name of over 12 years that you named in honour of your grandmama, it seems like they could throw me a little bone. I don't know if she was joking or serious, but is that what we're calling Harry now, by the way, my dear? Little bone. I think that's got a ring to it. Little Todger, little bone. However you want to dress it up, my dear. A bone's a bone, isn't it? All the same. Give a dog a bone. Give a dog a bone. I love that saying so much. It reminds me of the song of RuPaul's. I don't even know if I can say the word, but it reminds me of... it rhymes with granny chaser, but instead of granny, it's a word beginning with TR, a very innocuous, inoffensive word. Once upon a time, a very, very fun word. Granny Chaser is the name of the song where she chants, give a dog a bone. Before she blew up as the huge mother of drag that she is today, by the way. This is going back a few years after her first flush of fame, but it's on YouTube. I love that one, and I especially love RuPaul's Jealous of My Boogie. Now, that is one of my going out anthems. You know, when you play the songs before you go out, gals and ladies, and a few lady boys, you know, with a little cocktail and with your friends, a nice line or two, and a little bit of baby sham to lubricate proceedings. That's one of my going out anthems. Got the heels on and staring in the mirror with a hairbrush, you understand. Jealous of my boogie. I love that song. Jealous of my boogie, woogie, woogie. Gives me life. Now, this is just a bit of fun, really, but on the subject of Felon's Claw, which I didn't know about. I didn't know about, by the way, Felon's Claw. You did. River. Oh dear, I haven't written down your name. The Free Sandwich says, River, have you ever heard about the Felon's Claw in graphology? The A in Meghan's logo has one. It is something a lot of criminals have in their handwriting, usually under part of the letter G, J or Y. There you go. And apparently it's a handwriting characteristic that resembles a jagged claw and is considered a warning sign of manipulation. Well, wouldn't that be absolutely accurate and appropriate for the Duchess? And I did look at a few examples online, my dear. I'm sure she's a graphologist's dream, this woman, isn't she? Well, I must admit, and I don't want to pour water on this, my dear, observation, but I wouldn't say that her handwriting accurately or strictly follows the path of a felon's claw, as I see it described, my dear. They sort of go down more and hook a little bit more. But having said that, the overall effect, when you glance at a passage of hers, oh, my eyes hurt at the thought of that. Not that sort of passage. No, my dear, I know we are used to a sewerage of verbal diarrhea emanating from those pipes of Montecito. That is not the passage I was referring to, so please take your mind out of the gutter, my friends. Please. When you see a passage of hers from afar and you're looking down on, especially a letter to Daddy, the overall effect of her handwriting is like a clutching claw, isn't it? Clutching back over her words, clutching back. I'm going to get you, I'm going to get you. Like a tabby cat fishing at a brook, at a babbling brook. One of England's famous babbling brooks. There'll always be in England as long as there's a babbling brook beside it. That tabby cat is in there with the claw, fishing it up. I'm going to get that babbling brook. And we'll see if there's always going to be in England. There's going to be a Monte England, and I'm going to be queen. Oh, yes I am, yes I am. Well, Queen Camilla hosted a reception for staff, actors and supporters to celebrate the work of the National Theatre on stages, screens and in schools at home and abroad. With a global reach of 19 million, the National Theatre uses creativity and expertise to create theatre that sparks imagination. The Queen is patron of the National Theatre, which of course was one of Meghan's patronages, that she had the temerity to hand back and toss them away, the sort of patronage and role that one would be privileged and honoured to have. No, she had other things to do. Oh, Queenie, you're not very busy. Have this patronage. I'll chug it back to you with my claw. The Queen met guests and watched performances. She was rubbing shoulders with Luvees and my twin, Kate Blanchett. And Mike Lee was there. That was exciting to see him conducting some improvisation classes. Abigail's Party, Nuts in May. Oh, I'm a great fan of the early years of his career. Not so much of the later years, but the early years. Oh, they were something special, weren't they? Melody Staunton showed up, as did James Corden. Oh, that Jimmy Corden. He's another one that gets in where all don't, doesn't he? He's very successful with it. Right on in there, greasing all over Her Majesty. Oh, all over her he was. Can't bear him. And who else was there? Oh, yes, Sharon D. Clarke as Lady Bracknell there. She was all over the Queen, but some of that was part of the performance, some of it wasn't. They were all over Her Majesty, to be quite honest, like a rash. But she was there as Lady Bracknell, which I suppose you could say is a slight influence on me. Our Lady Bracknell. She was wearing the Fabergé sapphires that we've seen her in lately, and matching a blue Anna Valentine. Duchess Regina George says, Dear River, I have just seen a group of celebrities visiting Kensington Palace for an event. It was Buckingham Palace, my dear, Buckingham. I'm appalled to see these people think it's appropriate to put their hands on Queen Camilla's shoulders. Not only am I disgusted at them touching Her Majesty, but also that the palace staff would include this footage and almost sign off on this behaviour. I thought you would be happy to know there are good people who understand protocol better than these celebrities and are showing their disapproval in the video comments. Well, my dear Duchess Regina George, or Vagina Gorge, that would be another twist on your name, wouldn't it, my dear? Rather vulgar. Well, I can be staunch. I could be a staunch character, my dear. I could be so staunch that Queens Mary and Alexandra would be turning in their graves with the competition, my dear. Truly, I can be staunch, so I get it. I get what you're saying, don't get me wrong. But, you know, we have to consider and meditate on the fact that a tree, you know, that I look to trees for inspiration always, more than you would ever think. And I talk to them and I walk with them. And the trees, in order to survive, they must be flexible, firmly rooted, but they must bend and move in the winds and with the elements. You understand, my dear? They must. That is how they survive the greatest storms over centuries. There must be a little bit of movement. Rigidity is brittle and it will snap and it will break, my dear. You know, you blame these people for putting their hands all over the king and queen, and I can understand why, but the real blame, if it must be laid upon anybody's shoulders, really, it must go to the king and queen. It's their responsibility for the way that they allow these people to behave, you know. It's a multifold turn of events, but everything multiplied and magnified at the accession of King Charles and beyond, which was a fabulous accession, but they had access at that accession, didn't they? There was more and more access. The shaking of 6,000 million hands. Do you remember that? I mean, it was glorious footage. The king going everywhere, congratulating him, falling over him, kissing him, embracing him. King, 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 king. You know, I can't say that I would take that back because it was a cinema paradiso moment of love, an outpouring of love for the king, which cemented that moment in history. It branded it. Do you understand? The moment of the king's accession after 70 years. And 75 years of his life. Now, how old was he? He wasn't that old, was he? 72? Oh, I forget all these numbers, but you get the idea, my dear. A long time. A pretty long time. Cemented the moment. So I can't say that I would take it back, but it was actually very important and effective. But it comes with consequences. And it came at a cost. The cost of familiarity. And as we all know, my dears, familiarity breeds contempt. And that is not what it's doing at the moment. But over time, my fear and your fear, Regina George, is exactly that, isn't it? That it would breed contempt, as they appear less as a sacredly held object that the Queen was, the late Queen, and perhaps kings and queens before her. Of course, that they were from different eras with less access anyway on various media. But at the moment, sometimes it does feel like we're more at the round of pass the parcel, or pass us the biscuit tin. Oh, it's Queen Camilla. Oh, it's King Charles. Passing them round. Actually, this is where Queen Anne, if she had come to pass, Charles's sister, if we had had a Queen Anne with her personality and her qualities, she would have excelled in that area, wouldn't she, with her natural ability to engage with people but keep them at an arm's distance, like her late mother, you understand. Hugs aren't for her, touchy-feely's not for her. And perhaps Edward as well, to some extent. He isn't so fond of mixing with the hoi polloi in quite the same way, although he gets on and does it a bit. But actually Andrew as well. Close behind Anne, maybe even in front, would have been Andrew, Prince Andrew, because however inappropriate you might have been convinced that he is, or you might have heard tales of his sort of bullying demeanour towards staff and being a bit of a git, whether true or not, he is traditionally very royal in very many ways. Do you understand? And that doesn't mean that he has to be nice all the time, or is nice all the time and cosy all the time. It means royal. Royal. Not good or bad, just royal. But we must consider their Majesty's own personalities. I think that's something we have to take on board. You know, every sovereignty, every reign has a different flavour and style, and they are both Luvees, Charles and Camilla both. They are Luvees, as they're known here in the kingdom, in the theatre world. Luvees. I'm a bit of a Lovey. It's almost impossible for their Majesties to straddle the worlds of art, which we're lucky that they do have such a joyous involvement in the world of art and theatre and film and performance and entertainment and in-depth knowledge, especially the king. And it's good to see that the young Waleses are being encouraged with their artistry, which is quite exemplary for children of their age, by the way. It's encouraging. But they have to balance all of this as they become friends with these people and these actors and editors. I know it's a fine line, but they truly do become very friendly with some of these people and these Luvees. So it's difficult to knock back the intimate gestures that come along with that at various events, isn't it, my dears? And you give a little air kiss hello to one, and then you see another one that you know just as well, so you can't really avert from that, can you, my dear? Or it would look very rude. The gates are now open in this reign. The gates are open. And actually, as heartwarming as some of those images can be, this is why some folk, like me, for instance, warned against all of this touchy-feely business, because sometimes it's better to risk being seen as too cool and remote and guarded and keeping everyone at arm's length. Sometimes it is worth taking that risk. That would be my way, had I been queen. Or princess, or duchess. Well, for a start, I wouldn't have said yes to that particular proposal. No, I wouldn't prince or no. I've known a few different crown jewels in my time, but I've yet to have a frostbitten todger in my mouth or anywhere else, and I'm not about to start, my dear. That doesn't sound like an appetising dish whatsoever. I'm digressing, but no, Una, if I was a royal, you bet your life I would be having my gloves on. I would not be allowing members of the public to touch me. I would be behaving with royal dignity. Royal dignity. At the very least in public. The optics matter. She's Queen Camilla, not Mother Teresa. This style is going nowhere, though, my dear. It's going nowhere. We have to come to terms with the fact that if we are going to be royal admirers or royal observers from a distance, then we've got to suck it up. We've got to suck it up and just enjoy some of the joyous moments of it. And there were more joyous moments when His Majesty visited the Centre for Injury Studies at Imperial College, where he highlighted the vital research that takes place, and His Majesty heard how Imperial applies lessons learned from previous conflicts, including in Afghanistan and Iraq, to support the wounded in Ukraine. The centre brings engineers and scientists together to develop ways of diagnosing, treating and rehabilitating patients following traumatic injuries. And at Investitures, Amy Dowden, the dancer, known for Strictly, wore royal purple to receive her MBE from King Charles at Buckingham Palace for services to fundraising and raising awareness of inflammatory bowel disease. She described the moment as an out-of-body experience, and Sir John Rutter is another worthy mention who received his knighthood. He's a composer of royal commissions such as choral compositions and jubilees and the coronation. Wonderful. Many congratulations, my dear Sir John. A little bit of insight here from a fruit basketeer who actually left this comment 5 months ago, but I only recently discovered it in a little folder of screenshots that I keep. So forgive the delay in response. Ms. Beaverhausen. Ms. Beaverhausen, I'm a retired police officer, and unlike Ms. Dumbarton, I really can't moan about not being able to have used or have had my voice heard throughout my career. I was assigned to a number of sometimes interesting and also very dull tasks. Part of my duties involved being seconded to do protection duties for VIPs. Over the years, I've been assigned to world leaders, politicians, royalty, and the Pope. The absolute highlight would have to be doing protection for our royal family. I have had the honour of doing VIP for Queen Elizabeth, Prince Philip, then Prince Charles, and the then Duchess of Cornwall and Prince Andrew and Sarah. The electricity in a royal visit is unlike any other VIP duty. Some felt it with the Pope, but for me it was with the royal family. I recall that Prince Andrew wore a beautiful scent, and Sarah was much prettier in person. That's nice to hear. I was surprised that Charles and Camilla were so much smaller than I expected. A lot of people say that, my dear. Like Sarah, photographs do not do justice to Camilla. She is so much prettier and softer in person. So am I, my dear, so am I. It's incredible. You'd be amazed. Not really. I look like Gollum. Her eyes twinkle mischievously, my dear. Tut, tut, tut. I am sorry to be pedantic, but that is a pet hate of mine, and you will receive a rap on the knuckles for that. Mischievous is the word, my dear, not mischievous. There is no such word as mischievous or mischievously. Mischievously. Let's get it right. Wonderful. Her eyes twinkle mischievously, and her smile is beautiful. As a couple, you could sense their love, friendship, and respect for each other. Charles and Camilla were so very friendly, made eye contact and thanked us for being there. Being in the presence of the Queen and Prince Philip was unlike any experience I've ever had, and everyone, no matter their political affiliation, were giddy to catch a glimpse of this glamorous and magnetic couple. Those are duties that I will never forget. Well, isn't that nice? Isn't that nice for Ms. Beaverhausen to share that comment on her experience as a protection officer, VIP? Wonderful, my dear. Wonderful memories for you. Feel free to share any more insights you have about any of those members of the royal family that you're comfortable with sharing. It seems that you're rather starstruck, doesn't it, with the late Queen and the late Duke? I mean, I could give or take the Duke, to be honest with you, my dear. He didn't really ring my bell or excite me in any way, but of course the late Queen was... when I was coming up as a very, very young... I mean, she was always magical to me now, but as a very young child, sort of primary school age, she was magical, a mystical being in a way that I quite miss feeling. I still believe in magic, but like a Father Christmas type figure, or the Tooth Fairy. And then there was the Queen. I genuinely, for quite a few years, not just my infancy, really thought that she had some sort of ethereal power beyond that of man. Do you understand? And I know that many people, and many of my peers certainly, felt that way in the generations beforehand. We have so much more access now, so the youngsters coming up today are going to feel a little bit differently about it, but don't tell me that you can't feel the sprinkling of magic that their majesties bestow upon the world in all of their walkabouts and their meets and greets. They do. The magic is still there, but we've got to focus in on it and hone it and refine things, because things have gone a little bit too awry over the last few years. People are a bit confused. I do worry about William. I really do worry about William and that fucking beard. I'm not talking about Catherine. I mean his facial hair. I do worry about the boy. I do worry about the boy and the directions and the advice that he's taking here and there. But for now, we'll dismiss that and put that aside and channel the royal spirit and look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you for sharing your time with me. Feel free to share your comments in the fruit basket below with all the other Basketeers. And if you enjoyed the broadcast, my tip jar is in the description, so you can show your appreciation there, or not. Thank you, and I'll see you next time. Ta-ra, my dears, and to